In this video, we shall continue talking about areas of test automation high efficiency. These areas were reviewed in the previous video, and now we are going here. So the next area is performance testing. This area is almost impossible without automation, because when we have to create some load model or load profile, to create some high load for an application, it's really hard for a human to execute such tasks. But it's rather easy for a software to create any load to perform any kind of performance testing. In large systems, and yes, Microsoft Word may be a representative of such a large system, just for instance, the smoke test may consist of hundreds or even thousands of rather simple tests. So why not to automate that smoke test? It is executed with each and every new build, so if we automate the smoke test, we can save a lot of time here. Sometimes we are working with applications without the human interface, or performing some testing here, like with database management systems, web services, web servers, some server-side or client-server applications, and so on and so on and so on. What a human may see here? What may he do here? What may he test here? Almost nothing. But some test automation tool may really look inside the database, inside some communication with the web server, and so on. So the tool may perform the operation we need to perform. The next idea is almost like the previous one. When we are speaking about some low-level operations, like working with disk, with network, with memory, with CPU, and we, for instance, want to investigate some application and its operations, it's absolutely impossible to execute such tasks without some tool. How can we see inside the operation system and analyze what application is doing what? But if we have some tool, even such simple as the resource monitor for Microsoft Windows or any other special tool, we may easily see those low-level operations and even perform something like stopping the process, for instance, locking a network access, and something like that. Sometimes in software testing we face long routine operations like this. Imagine you have to register 5 million users in some system. How long does it take manually? I think weeks, months, years. But with some special tool, it may be just a couple of seconds. So when we have something long, when we have something routine, boring, we use some special tool and free our time for some intellectual work. Automation also helps a lot when we are working with something standard, because a lot of applications have something like cards, payments, registration, setting management, and so on and so on and so on. Once we automate all this, then we may only somehow change our scripts, change our tests, change them a little bit, and reuse them again on the new project or on new similar functionality in the same project. And of course, there are several areas where the automation is the default approach, like link checking, making and checking backups, like some system monitoring, downloading and applying the updates, and so on and so on and so on. It's especially widespread in DevOps, or even dev test ops, or just in any everyday IT life. All this and much more may be and should be and already is automated. So the automation looks good here as well. But beware of those enemies of the test automation. If we have a complex user interface, it's a question: should we dive into the automation or should we be cautious? Because complex user interface will force us to write complex tests, to maintain them in a hard way. If we have huge and unstable technology domain, once again, shall we dive into the automation or shall we not? Because maybe we will be forced to switch from one tool to another, from one technology to another, and that takes both time and money. If we have something like usability and other human-related things, where test results should come from humans, not from the machine, in such situations, test automation is not also so good as in previous ones. If we have unstable requirements, that's the worst situation ever. Because imagine that we've created a lot of tests and then the requirements somehow change. And we have to rewrite those tests. And there may be other enemies of the test automation. So we should be aware of all those ideas. Nevertheless, automation is good and it becomes more and more popular.